Hi Sagittarius, welcome to your September 2019 Astrology 33 bonus love reading. Thank you to those of you who've liked, viewed, shared, subscribed, and donated to the channel. I appreciate all of that. And just to let you guys know, I actually won't be offering personal readings this month. It's possible I might resume them around the time that I start posting the October videos, but either way, I'll at the very least give you guys an update when I post those videos. And maybe at the latest, it'd be early October when I start offering those readings again. All right, and as for the spread itself, in front of us we have the bridging the gap spread, and the way that works is on the left side we have your energies towards the connection with your main love interest. On the right side we have their energies toward the connection. These are the past energies, present energies, future energies. Since this is just general, if you feel like your energy sounds more like it's on this side and theirs is on that side, then definitely trust that. And also, as far as the decks being used, we have the Lover's Path Tarot on the left and the Tarot of Sexual Magic on the right. And then once we get through the main spread, we'll actually pull some Oracle cards to help tie everything together. That's where the bridging the gap dynamic comes into play. All right, now with that out of the way, we'll start with the main spread. Past position on your side, we have Fertility. So this is the equivalent of the Empress card in the regular tarot. And what this says to me, well, I mean, quite frankly, it's almost self-explanatory. There could definitely be some pregnancy for some of you. Maybe you found out that you were pregnant in the past. Maybe this even might have happened around the time of Taurus for some of you, since this card does represent Taurus energy sometimes. And for some of you, I would say for some of you, it might have been a surprise. For others of you, this might have actually been planned, though. The only reason I say it might have been a surprise is for those of you with Sagittarius rising, especially, even though Uranus is technically in Taurus, which would be your sixth house. For some of you, since it's still in the early degrees, it might be in your fifth house still. And Uranus transiting your fifth could definitely lead to some surprise pregnancy. But yeah. And for some of you, it could have been during the time of Leo too, since we do see the line in the background there. So it could have been more recent, obviously. But yeah. Or maybe this is just saying that you found out during the time of Leo that you're pregnant. But yeah, so that's what I'm seeing there in the past, and maybe this could have even been discussion around wanting to have children, right? So maybe if not physically being pregnant, maybe there was a discussion in the past about having children. And also, for some of you, this could be someone from a different background from you, whether it be ethnicity or maybe just culture altogether, because we see the names in the card here. We have Cleopatra and Caesar, so yeah. A lot going on there, but that's what I'm picking up on there. It's some kind of discussion around pregnancy, maybe even just taking things to the next level in the relationship. So if not a flat out, let's have kids, maybe just talking about taking it to that level where that could be somewhere down the line, maybe moving in together, possibly having kids somewhere down the line, so on and so forth. In the past on their side, we have the Knave of Chalices. So this is the equivalent of the Page of Cups. So the vibe that I'm getting from this particular card, if we look at the artwork, is that whether it be actually finding out you were pregnant or even just the discussion around it might have freaked this person out a little bit. If we look at their facial expression in the card, and then it looks like, they're looking at writing something, like they're trying to write something to respond, maybe it's like really frustrating them to find the right words. Like to them, it might have had all these other implications to it. For example, like if we look in the background, it looks like there's a married couple. At least that's the way I see it, right? So maybe that's what they're thinking in their head. Like, okay, well, if we're going to talk about having kids, and does that mean I have to propose to this person, right? So they might have really just started getting all caught up in their minds and really just thinking of all these other things that would come along with it. And it might have freaked them out a little bit. That's the main vibe that I'm picking up on there, especially with the Page of Cups too. That is sometimes another indicator for me if we think about the traditional tarot of pregnancy, because there's like that fish jumping out of the cup. So there could definitely be something around that. But then that would also be some sloppiness with the whole thing, right? So whatever it is, whether they found out that you were pregnant in the past, or that, maybe even that discussion just came up, they might have freaked out a little bit. So that's really what I'm picking up on there. In the present position, we have the Four of Arrows. So this is the equivalent of the Four of Swords, and naturally that's the card that comes after the Three of Swords, right? So this can just be saying that you're healing from that situation, right? Like if you whether you told them that you were pregnant and they freaked out, or you just mentioned to them that, hey, maybe you started that talk with them that, hey, are we going to move in together, right? What are we going to do next as far as the relationship goes? And maybe they freaked out, and maybe that left you in this state here where you were healing from it, right? Maybe it hurt to, go through that conversation with them and realize that they weren't on the same page with you. Um, I do have to say, for a very small percentage of you, this can even represent these two energies together, can represent a possible miscarriage. So if that's the case, very sorry for your loss, if that's what actually did take place for you. Um, but yeah, primarily for most of you, I think this is just you healing from the situation as far as, they might have just freaked out over the whole thing. In the present position on their side, we do have the Fool card. So again, that's another vibe to me that represents that, they really might have freaked out and just darted when they, after this conversation took place. Um, I see some similarities there, like the thing that they're holding in their hand, they're also holding something in their hand there. It's just, there's some parallels coming out to me between the two cards, put it that way, and the energies as a whole. So, again, this could just represent where they are, just really on the move. It may not be long term because of the card that I see at the bottom of the deck, but at least at the present moment, I have a feeling that, whatever this was, whether you told them that you were pregnant and they completely bolted, or even just had that conversation that, you wanted to consider that down the line, looks like they might have, totally freaked and taken it in a negative way. I don't necessarily see it'll stay that way, but we'll see. In the future position, we have Awakening, and this is actually the equivalent of the Sun card in regular tarot. So if we think about the Sun card in the Rider-Waite, there's the kid on the horse, right? So that could definitely, again, be pointing to the same thing, saying that in the future you might have that child, right? Another way this could play out, though, with the Sun energy, could definitely be saying that, that romantic spark might return, right? Maybe, so again, maybe this person does come around for some of you. For others of you, this can just be awakening to, maybe that showed you their true colors. Like another way that this could have played out too is maybe there was just a pregnancy scare. Like you thought you were pregnant, and then maybe you found out that you actually weren't, right? But just through that process of having the pregnancy scare and you think, oh, I'm pregnant, and then this person completely freaks out and bolts, maybe that was like the awakening you needed to see. Like, okay, well, now I know what this person, how they really feel about the situation, right? That could be the way it played out for some of you. But for others of you, it can just represent, the revival of the connection. With the future energy on their side, if I could get the card. There we go. We have the King of Swords. So this is actually a court card for Aquarius. So some of you could be dealing with an Aquarius. Another way to look at that, though, is Aquarius represents your third house of communication. So this could just be them coming back in to communicate with you. Maybe trying to, again, repair the connection. But they still might seem a bit detached to you with that Aquarian energy, right? They might not seem overly apologetic about what took place. They might just come across still a bit detached and not really giving off too much about how they feel. And maybe that might rub you the wrong way also. And again, that could be with the awakening thing there too. Maybe you start to see more about what the connection would really be, right? If you did decide to move forward with it. But I mean, to me, like I said, I feel like for most of them, it might have been that they just freaked out. And let's say that this pregnancy did, maybe you conceived in the time of Taurus, you would actually be giving birth around the time of Aquarius. So maybe this is them coming to the realization that, okay, I really need to step my game up and get my act together by the time, the baby's going to be born. So, maybe that's just them coming to the realization that there are some habits that they need to leave behind, right? And grow a little bit. And maybe that's what the Fool is in a more positive sense, saying that, okay, they realize they need to leave some of that other stuff behind, right? Like if we look at the two people there, right? That could even just be a symbolic thing, saying that they're realizing that they're going to have to, if they were very casual and sleeping around a lot, this could be them realizing, okay, I really need to leave that all behind now and get my act together. The reason I say that could be the case is because at the bottom of the deck, we do have the Five of Chalices, which is the Five of Cups. And that does represent that disappointment energy. But what I see with the Five of Cups in other decks sometimes is with the Three Cups in October and the Two standing, is I actually started to see it recently as someone almost mourning the death of their single life. If we think about the Three of Cups as very much like a celebratory party type vibe, right? And then the Two of Cups very much looks like a one-on-one relationship. To see the Three Cups knocked over, but the two still standing, I almost viewed it as someone realizing, okay, I'm going to have to put behind my party lifestyle, right, and actually get real now. And then if we look at this particular artwork from this deck, taking that imagery from the first one in mind, this almost even looks like a proposal, right? Like the person's on their knees. Looks like they're trying to extend an offer to the woman. So this could definitely even say that for some of you, the person might have bolted at some point, right? After this news, whether it be that you just expressed that, hey, this is where you saw the relationship going, or if there was an actual pregnancy. And with that at the bottom of the deck, it can represent that at least for some of you, they will come back around and make a serious offer. If not proposing, at least apologizing to you and putting in the work to repair the connection. All right, at the bottom of the deck on your side, we actually have Sacrifice, which is the major arcana card for me that represents Pisces. So this can just be saying, well, it's the equivalent to the Hangman, by the way. I forgot if I mentioned that or not. But yeah, so this could even just be pointing to some of this coming to light during the time of the Pisces full moon, which will be happening right in the middle of the month. So that could be what brings some additional insight for you as well. And again, with the sacrifice theme there, right? Realizing, of course, that there would have to be sacrifice, right? Okay, if you're pregnant, maybe that means you're going to have to rest a lot more, right? With that Four of Arrows energy. And yes, once you have the child, you could get back up and about again, but maybe this is you just planning, realizing, okay, there's going to have to be some sacrifices made here. Maybe that's what you're both realizing, especially if it was, like we were saying, if Uranus is still in your fifth house. It might have been an unexpected pregnancy where the two of you have been in a relationship for a long while, but maybe you guys weren't expecting that, right? So now you guys have just been trying to figure out how best to move forward. And then I'm not going to go into the bottom of the deck forever, but I do see we have the Justice card underneath that as well. So that's a pretty good indicator that things will work out in the end in a positive way. So that's pretty cool. All right, so let's see if we get any additional messages from the Oracle cards. First, I'll take a look at the Mystic Moon Oracle deck. And for those of you who haven't seen these videos before, what I do is I pre-shuffle the deck before we start recording. And then I'm actually looking for jumpers here. So first I'm going to be looking for any unspoken messages from you toward them, and then from them toward you. And since these are generals, if I shuffle for a while and nothing's coming up, I'll just take that as a sign to keep it moving, rather than just pull one from the top of the deck or anything like that. All right. So, like I said, first we'll be looking for unspoken messages from you toward them. All right, nothing seems to be coming up there, so we'll shuffle a little bit more and see if we get anything from them toward you. Almost had one there. All right, I'll give it a few more shuffles. If nothing comes out, we'll just move on to the next Oracle deck. Yep, nothing there. All right, so we'll do next is, lastly, we'll pull one from the Wisdom of the Oracle deck. So for those of you guys who watch my regular readings, this is one of the Oracle decks I use. So maybe used to the images there. And I'm just looking for one card here to tie everything together before we wrap up. Alright, nothing coming up yet, but I'll give it a few more shuffles. With this deck, I do at least like to get something, so we can just pull one, worst case, but shuffle for a little longer, see if we get anything. Oh, there we go. We have Between Worlds, so interesting. I could definitely see how that could vibe with the reading, right? Like I said, especially if this is like a unexpected pregnancy for you guys and now you're trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to manage this, right? But there's the actual card itself, Between Worlds. There's the artwork, and the number is 3. So let's take a look at the messages for that. It says, transitions, not being quite out of one situation and fully engaged in another, temporary blindness, no man's land. The Oracle's message, between the worlds is where you must let go of the tendency to make assumptions. This is a time when you are unable to see what is ahead. Cultivate curiosity and trust the process of change and growth. You are done learning the lessons of recent experiences. In this place, between what was and what will be, is a state of making and unmaking and making again. What is essential now is to admit not knowing. There is great freedom and power to be unleashed. A mystery that is not yours to understand weaves the web of life within a divine matrix of consciousness greater than your own thoughts, feelings, beliefs, desires, and decisions. The seeds that were planted in the past begin to take root, but what surfaces will probably not be what you expect. When you are between worlds, you are invited to see with the curious eyes of a child glimpsing a rainbow for the first time. Do so and you will not be disappointed. So it was interesting to me there was the seeds that were planted in the past begin to take root, but what surfaces will probably not be what you expect. So for those of you, if this isn't a pregnancy, maybe this could have just been some kind of collaboration you were trying to do with the person. And maybe you saw it going one way and maybe it ended up going a totally different way. That's one way it could play out for you guys. Aside from that, the part about assumptions almost makes you feel like this is more for this energy here, where that message would resonate. So for those of you, if you felt like your energy was more this side and this was the other person's, hopefully that message resonated for you guys. But the relationship message says, this is a time to explore the new energy between you and another. It is not a moment for certainty, but rather for discovery and curiosity. You don't yet know if this will last forever, so allow yourself to explore who you are and what is reflected back to you. This relationship is meant to educate you about yourself. What do you need? What do you like or dislike? What values are important to you? You are in a critical phase of your relationship that is not to be dismissed or hurried. So that's interesting there too. Like I said, for example, let's say that maybe it was just a discussion about, hey, do you want to have kids, right? Maybe they freaked out about it. Maybe you were just trying to find out if down the line, right? Maybe if they wanted to have kids and maybe they thought you were, in their mind, they might have thought you were saying, hey, let's get married tomorrow, right? And they might have freaked out. And maybe that made you realize about them, okay, well, now I understand a bit more about them than I did before, right? So that's one way it could play out. With that Fool energy and the Four of Arrows, maybe it just says that there was some kind of conflict around this whole situation in the past. Maybe this is saying that you guys do get back on track. Can be an air sign you were dealing with, or maybe someone that you just view as a bit detached with that Aquarian vibe there that we see with the King of Swords. But it does look like they do have some regret around any conflict that might have taken place, or if they did ended up bolting on you guys, it looks like there is some regret there. And it looks like they might try to reconcile with you guys this month. Alright, so it was a bit of a weird reading, but hopefully that resonated with you guys. We'll wrap up there, and I'll talk to you all next month. Alright, bye.